I know it's been a while since I posted, but I wanted to get back in the groove of posting at least once weekly. Previously, I was talking mostly about my experience with being diagnosed with breast cancer and kind of everything to do with that. I'm going to branch out from that because there's a lot of other facets of my life that I wasn't able to focus on when I first was being treated. I just wanted to briefly tell the story of how I was diagnosed. I've been reading some threads recently, both on Facebook and on YouTube, about how people were diagnosed, women and men sharing their stories. And I think it's so important to talk about the different ways because I think people associate sort of one symptom or you're always going to feel a lump. Breast cancer shouldn't be painful. All of those things that I think prevent women and men from coming forward and advocating about those symptoms. That being said, I don't want people to be paranoid or obsessive, but I think sharing our stories is the best way to get information out there, and knowledge is power. My story could change another person's story, which is why I'm doing this. I was diagnosed in April of 2022. The weekend before I was diagnosed, I actually went to a Bruins game. And that Sunday night after the Bruins game, I was laying in bed and I was experiencing a lot of pain in my right breast, which, if you read about breast cancer, pain is not something that is typically associated with cancer. That can be more fibroids, benign tumors, but it's not sort of the first symptom. That was a major symptom for me, was pain. And pain when palpitating, but also just pain in general. So as I was experiencing that pain, I started doing a self breast exam, which I had done regularly, and I felt something quite hard and large. And it just so happened at that point in my life, I was the director of an oncology practice. I'm non-clinical, so manage more the business end, but I reached out to our medical director, who primarily treated breast cancer patients, and just asked if she would take a look just to make sure. And so in that case, just to pause there, I think if I hadn't had the connections I had, I don't know that I would have obviously been seen that quickly. But I want to pause there and just say that if anything sort of feels out of the ordinary, abnormal, pain that's new, reach out to your provider to discuss and trust your gut. If that's the one thing I've learned through this entire journey is really trusting my gut and really pushing for care quickly because as we know with cancer, time is precious and how we get access to care and how quickly we get access to care can really determine outcomes. So I was seen by oncologist that I worked with, who was the medical director of the practice. She did a breast exam and told me that I was not presenting with typical symptoms, but felt that she did feel a lump, but was suspicious that this was more fibroids. She was able to get me in for a mammogram that same day. She later told me that she did have concerns, but didn't want to alarm me because of the odd way that I was presenting. Again, having a lot of pain, not having any redness, was having some swelling. So, one thing that I did that I wish I could go back and change was because that I was thinking this was more of a fibroid, I didn't request that anyone come with me to my mammogram appointment. I also had never had a mammogram. I was 36 or 37 when I was diagnosed, and so I was not at the point where regular mammograms were recommended. So I wasn't sure what to expect. For all you ladies that have had mammograms, you know that they are quite uncomfortable. It's literally a machine that you have to rest your breast on this bar it's uncomfortable to begin with, but when you're having pain, it's even more uncomfortable. So it was a very painful experience. I had to have images done of both breasts, and then they called me back in to get additional images. Pretty quickly, I knew something was wrong. When they brought me in for secondary images, I just think we as women instinctually know when something's wrong. Pretty immediately, I was brought back to the ultrasound room, and the radiologist came in and was pretty direct, which I appreciated that she had a lot of concerns. Basically, the radiologist performed a breast ultrasound, and there appeared to be a large mass covering most of my right breast. At the time, this was at the end of the day, she asked if I wanted to just do the biopsy. I was so fortunate in the fact that I was able to get a mammogram and be biopsied all in one day. But being there by myself was awful. I'm blessed to have really great friends, a great family, a supportive husband. Some of my friends that I worked with in the cancer center came to the mammogram place just to sit with me. And then my husband was able to come and pick me up. But it was such a shock to the system. And that's the best way I can explain it. It felt like 30 minutes prior, I had been living one life. And 30 seconds later, my life had completely changed. And I remember just thinking, wow, like my life before, I had problems like everybody else, but all of a sudden I'm in a position where I'm thinking about, am I going to survive? So I would love to hear your stories. Please feel free to comment. So that's kind of part one of my journey. If you're interested of hearing part two, please go to my YouTube channel. The link is provided. Subscribe, give a thumbs up, but also please comment on what was your diagnosis journey, because again, knowledge is power, and the more we can share our differing experiences, the more we can help other women.